Good morning, Covington County. Welcome to Good News Covington County with Cousin Jared and Brother John. Sure glad to have you here. Hello to Opp, Andalusia, Sanford, Red Level. Who am I missing? Jared, Pleasant Home, Carolina, Loango, Sanford, Strawn. If you're out there, we want to say hi to you, even in Weedville and places like that. I hope you're enjoying today. Got up this morning. My cat beat me back inside the house again today, Jared. I opened the door for the cat to go outside. She put her head outside, and before I could close the door, she had run to the back of the house to climb back into her bed. It was 37 degrees at that time. Now it's above 50, and we're going to head into a nice day today. We'll talk about the weather in a little while, but I want to remind everybody this is a public service announcement, even though you may not want to hear it. This is tax day. You have filed, if you have not filed your taxes or filed for an extension on your taxes or paid the IRS, then I tell you what, I'm too scared of two groups, ISIS and the IRS. And I'm pretty sure that I ought to be more scared of the IRS than ISIS. But file your taxes today. You have until 5 o'clock today to get your taxes filed and or an extension filed, or pay them the money, or whatever. But that today is the last day for you to legally keep yourself out of trouble with the IRS. And you know, if you're happy in life, you don't have trouble. I'm trying to avoid it. It's kind of like playing golf. Golf is a good walk ruin, but if you really want to ruin it, keep knocking it into the water and into the traps and over the greens, and it won't be a good day. Anyway, lots of news today. Lead off with our source, the Andalusia Star News. There's a great article by Christopher Smith, who is a new writer with them that does a really good job about the Andalusia High School venue changes for graduation this year. Andalusia High School, usually when they have the graduations, they're over at the Andalusia Auditorium at Andalusia High School. A lot of the ceremonies revolve around that place. It's a great facility for that. But as you know, or maybe you don't know, the Andalusia High School and Stadium is in the midst of nearly a $13 million remodeling effort on the football field, the stadium, and the auditorium itself. Big doings, big architectural changes, so they can't go in there and have the ceremony inside Andalusia High School. What they will be doing is they'll have a commencement exercises. This year will be held at the Kiwanis Community Center down here south of town, and the ceremony will stay the same. It'll just be in a different place. It's kind of, as Dr. Daniel Shakespeare said, it's just a bump in the road of progression. And I like the way he put that. It's going to be a nice thing. And I know that a lot of those students would like to have their graduation in the hallowed halls of Andalusia High School, but progress moves on, and they're going to have a better high school to come back to for their homecomings for years to come. Dawn Thompson, who's an alumna and a teacher there, said even though the ceremony will be in a different place, she's not worried about the tradition being stripped away. She said, "I realize that it is a tradition and that the seniors are disappointed. But what makes the tradition special is not the facility, but the dignified traditions of AHS that we still have." And I think that's the truth. And I think, like Ms. Thompson, we'll all be happy with that new auditorium that'll have a first-class stage for theatrics and those kind of things. Cavell Jones, who is an 11th grade teacher over there, has a son that's graduating. And he's been an outstanding student in Andalusia High School. In fact, he's going to Vanderbilt on an academic scholarship, but he's also going to try to play football while he's up there. He's played baseball and football in Andalusia. He's an outstanding young man. They've done a good job with him. She was talking about how he was saddened by the fact that he won't be graduating at the auditorium. And it's unfortunate they can't graduate him there. But that's going to be one of the changes that's going to happen this spring. Along with the graduation ceremony being moved, Pride Day will be moved to the baseball field. And Awards Day will be held at the First Baptist Church here in Andalusia on East 3 Notch. And the homecoming assembly, I don't know where they'll do that, but that'll be determined later too. The stadium is expected to be completed in time for football season, but the auditorium's final date is still unclear. It will probably be later than that. We also have another story related to that by Michelle Gerlach, again from the Andalusia Star News, about the Board of Education still working on the deciding the stadium details for the new stadium, or the revised, remodeled, and just a whole lot better. Hey, welcome back to Good News Covington County here today. It's a Tuesday, the 17th day of April, 2018. I think that's about the 113th or 14th day of the year. Wow, what fun we're having here in Covington County. We're going to have a nice day today. It's going to get up about 80. Now, when we left, we were talking about some of the big doings that's going on over at Andalusia High School. Don't worry, Strawn, we've got stories about you today, too. We were talking about the stadium expansion and the remodeling that they're doing right now. That project's about a $12 million project that they've got over there, and they've already spent $1.6 million of that budget to upgrade the stadium. Big things are happening, and the way they've decided to build it to save a lot of money was that they're going to let individual projects, rather than having to pay one contractor for everything, they're going to do what work they can and do the bids to subs, and that looks like it'll save them $3 or $4 million. At least on paper, that's what it looks like. I hope they're right. Last night, the Board of Education had to make a decision about whether or not to spend about $23,000 to add brick to the new press box. But that's pretty much small potatoes, according to this article by Michelle Gerlach, compared to what lies ahead. Here's an example of some of the obstacles that they need to overcome. And you know, that stadium's going to be nice, buddy. When they get through with it, it's going to be state of the art. It's going to be something, again, like so much in Andalusia, that we'll be proud of. But before May 2nd comes, when they plan on putting their artificial turf down, they're going to need to know how big the sign is for the scoreboard. Now, you wouldn't think that's a big deal. Coca-Cola's going to provide us an analog scoreboard, but guess what's coming? They've got it in the plans to have a screen there where they can do video playbacks. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes in another article. But Coca-Cola will provide them with the analog scoreboard, but the screen's another thing. But it's a real forward-thinking thing that they're adding to the project, because in time it looks like, even though it's not a requirement right now, they will be doing video replays on controversial plays. And Andalusia might be one of the places that they set up as a beta test site for that method. According to Ted Watson, I'll read directly from it. I'm being told that the Coca-Cola would donate to us an analog scoreboard on the bottom, but it would be retrofitted to hold a video board. It is estimated the video board would cost $60,000, but Watson said he and others have looked at the video board installed in Enterprise, 40 miles away, and that cost $110,000 when it was installed. So, you know, I'm sure that there'll be some trade-offs for time and technology, but that's a big decision to make. Another possible decision they've got to do is awning over part of the old stadium. Are they going to refurbish that? Are they going to cut it down and remove it? That's a decision they have to make. The options for that can be as little as $20,000 and as much as $84,000, depending on the decision they make. They're looking at adding a another potential thing is up around the edge of the stadium on the east side. They're talking about putting a wrought iron fence in instead of chain link. And the difference in that is about $80,000 between the two. But it will be a show place if they put a wrought iron fence up there. But again, that's the kind of thing that they're looking at. The board is also told that they will be adopting a new software program that will be used for online lunchroom payments next year and capable of collecting other fees and selling tickets online, which is a big deal. Now, I know this all costs money, but in time, it saves money. It's forward looking. That's what they're doing here. And relative to that is an article by Christopher Smith, again in the Star News, about the Andalusia High School adding instant replay. It'll be the only program in this area in our class that will have instant replay. This is how new this is. The National Federation of State High School Association rules do not allow for instant replay in high school football. But the Alabama High School Sports Association has been granted a waiver to implement instant replay as an experiment for up to 3 years. Area head football coaches say that could change high school football radically. And the nice thing about it is we're on the beginning of it instead of the end of it. We'll already have the system mastered. The AHSAA, that's the Alabama High School Sports Athletic Association, will partner with DV Sports. That's a company that specializes in instant replay technology, and they'll provide the schools with the facilities and the product they'll need to do the instant replay. We will start here in Andalusia in 2018, and our coach, Trent Taylor's already been to the AHSAA to talk about that, and there'll be some rules that they'll issue to us on a tentative basis that might affect the way things are played a little bit differently. It won't change any of the rules. But as I read it, each school will have 2 appeals per half that they can make. Coach will have a red flag that he can throw out on the field if he feels like there is a need for the replay. And they'll have every setup will be the same. They'll have 3 cameras in use for the instant replay, 2 sideline cameras and 1 in the end zone. All right, it's time for me to break on that. We'll be back in just a minute with more. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Folks, there's some days when this may bore you to death on this show, but there's some days that it's so much fun doing this show. I'm just glad to be here and doing it, and this is one of those days. Andalusia is such wonderful people, and I honestly, I get to work with some of the nicest people you'll ever meet at this station, and it's Jared and some of the other engineering crew here are just more fun than a barrel full of monkeys to work with. And I could give you some more comments about how much fun they are, but they're great people to work with. They make this an enjoyable job, and I hope they help make the show enjoyable for us. This last week, we spent a lot of time talking about the Relay for Life. Well, they had the Relay for Life event here in Andalusia this past Saturday night out at the Kiwanis Center. They kind of did a deconstruction of the Relay for Life, or deconflicted it, whatever you wanted to talk about it. And there was an article by Lacey Stinson in the Andalusia Star News about that today, and it's kind of interesting because I think Jared and I were talking about this. This represents kind of an opportunity for a paradigm change. Randy Bozeman was the I guess she was the coordinator for the Relay for Life event this year. And she broke her back to try to make this thing successful. And very, very, very interested in what she has to say and in the sincerity with which she has looked at this thing. They raised around a little over $60,000 this year, which is great. They had 8 teams that raised that $60,000, which is doggone good on those 8 teams' part. But she had some observations that were important because Andalusia in Covington County is a giving place. I'm going to quote her right now. Every year, again, this is Randy Bozeman, every year, participation has been going down in this event. I remember being in high school, and the event was a much bigger thing. It was an all-night event. Bozeman said that she joined Relay for Life because I think most people join up like that because it's a way they can give back to the community. Oftentimes they've had friends or family that have been affected by cancer and those kind of things, and they view it as a way to go on the offensive against that kind of thing, and I think it's laudable. I go further and quote her, I joined the committee because I believed in the event. If we had friends and family affected by cancer, and I've seen what it does, I have. I joined it because it benefits the American Cancer Society and helps us find a cure in the future. It started out as this really big thing with a large committee, and now it's kind of declined. Betty Bozeman says she doesn't know what it is, but she's still very thankful for all the support that she's gotten thus far. Their goal for this year was not 60,000, but 100,000, and not 8 teams, but 20. Now, those 8 teams raised over nearly $8,000 apiece, if you look at your average. If we'd had 20 teams, that's $3,000 roughly per team more than what the average should have been. You realize that if we could have had 20 teams there that had excelled by as much as those 8 teams raised, we would have made nearly $160,000 for Relay for Life by exceeding the goal by $3,000 instead of 60. Now, Jared and I have been talking about this thing, and one of the things I think that's kind of a quantum change, and we're going to talk with Ms. Bozeman about this, is that the younger generation wants to give. In fact, I think they're probably more charitable than our generation is. But they go about things differently. We're an analog, hands-on society, and our younger people that are in 40 and younger, are more of a digital society. They have their own digital communities, and they do things with that. And Jared's aware of a program that could help them out with that I don't know that anybody on the committee is aware of, but we're going to try to approach them with an idea how they can maybe use the internet to engage more young people in fundraising for that. He's got a phenomenal idea that, he's a great guy. He's got a phenomenal idea about maybe something we can do here locally. And this is what Ms. Bozeman says, and I agree with her. I want this event to be back to the way it used to be. Anyone can join the committee. It doesn't matter if you can't make it to every meeting. We just appreciate any help that we can get. And if you're interested in this, you could contact her at, and I'm going to spell this out, RANDIKAE _07 at yahoo.com. That's RANDIKAE _07 at yahoo.com. I'm personally going to get in touch with her about this, and I think we've got some young people here in this community that can give this thing an awful lot of horsepower and maybe a different way to look at things. Thanks again, though, for everybody that contributed to this. That's important work that you're doing, and especially you folks that got out there and walked and did the fundraising, and you're the real horses. It's you pulled the weight, you made a good thing happen. Thank you for doing that. The next article we have is by Lacey Stinson, and this is about some folks in OP. A former teacher from Michigan and an OP artist teamed up to write a book. Lorraine Maher and Anita Ellis published a book called Finny the Goldfish, the 4th grade mascot. It was published on April 13, 2018. Ms. Maher is a 4th grade teacher from Michigan that comes down to God's country every winter when it's warm. And she's from Michigan, and she's down here 6 months out of the year. She wrote the story. Ms. Ellis has been an artist here in Covington County since 1970 and has taught art classes around here since 1980. She owns a Piddling Paint Studio in Opp where Maher often took classes. After several years of knowing each other, these people collaborated. Ms. Maher had the story and Ms. Ellis did the artwork for it. And that's just an interesting thing because we've got people down here that are doing things like that we never hear about. The book's geared toward children in elementary school. It has a second grade reading level, and it tells a real story of Maher's time as a fourth grade teacher. The book is available at Amazon.com. Folks, we're going to break right now. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. We are trying to cover Covington County today. Got a great story out of Opp. Now, you know, they've got a great facility over there in Lake Frank Jackson. They do some great things over there around that lake. They've got a group called the Trail Masters that has created a wonderful recreational environment over there. In fact, they've done so well with that environment that you have, if you're a camper, you have a hard time getting in there. It's just about the best place to go if you've got an RV or something in the county. And they've got primitive camping sites. They've got nice camping sites for RVs and great fishing. They've got barbecue places that you can grill out, little sheds that you can have your family under if it starts to rain or something like that. Plenty of activities. And most of that's been put together and facilitated by a group of volunteers called the Trail Masters. Don't get a dime. Get great gratification out of doing great things for the community. These Trail Masters have served in a lot of different capacities, including helping with things like the Rattlesnake Rodeo, which is a wonderful event they have over there. I think the Rattlesnake Rodeo, people may joke about it, but I think it's kind of a atypical cultural event for this part of the world, and it shows what we can do in this part of the world to create something that's that's beneficial out of something that many people would consider to be a bad thing. But anyway, they have the Trail Master of the Year that's awarded, and this year, Mr. Jim Clare was recognized as the Trail Master of the Year at the 2018 Opp and Covington County Area Membership and Hall of Fame banquet. Now, he'll be awarded that on Thursday, May 10th in Opp. Mr. Clare is originally from Paducah, Kentucky. After serving in the Air Force, going to college and serving in the Air Force, he moved to Opp, Alabama. He's owned several businesses over there. Was the manager of the Ace hardware store over there for a number of years, and has been very active in the community. He became a member of the Trail Masters in 2016, and he's played an active role in building and repair work of the bridges, clearing walking trails, installing new aluminum benches, serving concessions, and even fried rattlesnakes at the Opp Rattlesnake Rodeo. He also worked serving concessions at the 4th of July celebration at the lake. It's a great opportunity. It's not just going to be about Mr. Clare, but the banquet will be held at the Opp Depot, which is a fine facility they've got over in Opp, and the tickets are $25 a piece. They're available from the Opp Chamber of Commerce. Just call 334-493-3070, 334-493-3070, and go to that. It's a great event for Opp. Another thing that we have to report on, and we'll try to make short of this, but Christopher Smith in the Andalusia Star News also reported that the Covington County Students for Safe Schools had planned on having a march about school safety. That's I think I know it has been postponed. Now it's rescheduled for May 2nd at 9 a.m. It'll be a lot of students participating in it. They've had to reschedule this because there were conflicts with it on a Saturday going to SAT and ACT tests and other events. now they're gonna try to have it, on a weekday while the students are in school. And I'm not gonna get involved in politics, or I'm not gonna get involved whether the, people feel that it's right or wrong for students to go to this. I do know this, that, Dr. Daniel Shakespeare, who I think a lot of, really tries to look after those kids and do a good job for them. And Dr. Shakespeare, in the article that I wrote, made it very, very clear that they do not want this to be a political event. They just want this to be an event for students coming together, asking people to recognize that we do have a problem with safe schools in many parts of the United States. We could argue, debate different solutions, and there's many different solutions as there are people out there. But I think it's a terrible thing that even in Covington County, students feel like they're not safe in their schools. There are things that we can do about this, and we ought to work as a community to figure out how we can be proactive on those kind of things instead of being the people that are just totally reactive. Let's all work together on that. The march will start at Andalusia High School at 9 a.m. on the 2nd, and it'll go up to the square and back the way they have it presently routed. If you want to get a t-shirt, you can get one for $20 from Andalusia High School. Our last story is a baseball story from Strawn. And they got a good little baseball team up there, and they don't get the publicity that Andalusia's gotten this year, because Andalusia's got, quite honestly, some real studs on it, on its baseball team. Ethan Wilson and some of these other kids are great, but Strawn lost a heartbreaking game the other night to the New Brockton Gamecocks, and it was a 6-2 loss that occurred I think after the 6th inning. I just want to mention some names that did real well in that game. Mitchell Schultz started on the mound for him and did a fine job until it just broke down late in the game. Corey Matrillo did an excellent job with hitting, and so did Tristan Barber. Tristan beat out an infield single, and Matrillo raced home and put the Tigers on the board. In the bottom of the 5th inning, Austin Smith reached first on an error to start the inning, and Matrillo then dropped down on a sacrifice bunt to help move Smith over to second base. Bryant Harbor, must have really peeled the cover off the baseball right down the middle of the diamond, and Austin Smith came around third and into home to tie the game. The Gamecocks from New Brockton came back and tied the game in the 6th inning, and then continued to battle, and they had a 3 runs in the 7th inning to pick up a 6-2 victory over Strawn. I want to tell you, those kids did a good job over there at Strawn. We're proud of them. Folks, that's about all the good news, bad news, or any other kind of news we can pack into this time today. We sure appreciate you watching. We're going to try to go over to the op this afternoon and see what's going over there with the Republican meet and greet for the sheriffs and other people. I hope to see you over there. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good evening.